Welcome back to another English lesson. Just a few hours ago, President Trump gave a speech in front of the UN in New York City, and I think he said quite a few things that might make some people upset. But what we are going to focus on in this English lesson is the question and answer session that he held with President Zelensky in front of reporters. Reporters asked the two men questions, and President Trump did most of the talking. But this is going to be a great English lesson if you want to study for the IELTS or TOEFL exam, or if you just want to have better conversations in English. Let's take a look at the news clip, and then I will come back and teach all of the difficult terms.
President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sat down and took questions. This, again, is just from moments ago. Here it is.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Mr. President, any update on your talks with President Putin, and do you still trust them?
I'll let you know in about a month from now, okay?
President Trump,
Mr.
your
President,
message
are you
to the...
willing to provide Ukraine with the security guarantees the same way as European allies
Well, that's
do?
later down the road. We'll be talking about that. Hopefully, we'll be in a position to talk about that.
Trust. I'm not sure if you knew this already. If you did, well, this can just be review, but trust. It means to believe that someone is honest or reliable. You might also hear the English phrasal verb to count on someone. Let's take a look at a sentence here that uses trust. We trust our friends to tell the truth. And here we have a picture of a couple friends, and it looks like they have trust in each other. Next, we have an idiom, down the road. It has nothing to do with what cars drive on. No, this is a little different. It means in the future. How about this sentence that uses down the road? He thinks he will be a better English speaker down the road if he keeps working hard. And I think the same can be true for you. If you work hard, study every day, you're going to get a little bit better each day. That is, if you are willing to put in the hard work. Willing means ready to do something. Some countries are willing to spend more on defense. And unfortunately, it looks like most countries are going to have to spend more on defense. There's a new report out saying that Russia may have interfered with Danish airports, maybe Norwegian airports. That's pretty scary stuff.
Hopefully, we'll be in a position to talk about that a little bit later on. It's a little bit too early to answer.
Why
that
do you
question.
think Mr. Putin is not
Yeah, go
willing
ahead,
to meet
Vince.
with both of you?
President Trump, your message to President Orbán, who is refusing to stop buying Russian oil.
Well, he's a friend of mine. I have not spoken to him, but I have a feeling if I did, he might stop, and I think I'll be doing that.
Thank you.
What progress do you think has been made on ending Russia's war against Ukraine since the last time you saw President Zelensky?
Well, the biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. It's, as you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly, Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army.
President Trump mentions President Orbán. President Orbán is the leader of Hungary. Let's look at a sentence that uses President Orbán. President Orbán met with world leaders at the UN. Hopefully, during this meeting, some progress was made towards peace. Progress means moving forward or improving. Take a look at that picture. It looks like we have an English learner. He is an English student. He made progress towards his goal of becoming a fluent English speaker. And if you are looking to become a fluent English speaker, you can practice with me. Right now, I am offering classes, just me and you, one-on-one. If that sounds helpful to you, take a look at the description. Take a look at the comments. I have left a link. Click on that so you can get more information. Maybe we will be speaking to each other down the road. A crashing economy. President Trump says Russia's economy is crashing. Every time you hear economy, think money. A crashing economy is when a country's money system is failing. And I feel really bad for this family here. It looks like they are having trouble affording groceries because the economy is crashing. Let's look at a sentence. A crashing economy makes it hard to pay for defense. It also makes it hard to pay for groceries. Frankly, this is another way to say you are being honest with someone. Honestly, to speak in a direct way. And take a look at this picture. Some bad news here for these students. The teacher said, frankly, I don't think you will pass the test. And I wonder why. Maybe they didn't put the hard work in. Maybe they didn't study enough for this test.
It's pretty amazing. You know, this is a war that should have ended in 3 days, 4 days. People said it was going to be very quick, and you got to hand it to the Ukrainian soldiers and everybody involved. It's still going on, and that's not a good thing for Russia. This was supposed to be quick, and so, you know, Russia doesn't look very distinguished, having taken 3.5 years now, right? It's about 3.5 years of very hard fighting, and it looks like it's not going to end for a long time.
Mr. President, have you been briefed on the latest alleged drone incursion into Denmark? What do you think of that? And
Where are they?
Into Denmark, Copenhagen. Denmark is saying that there were some drones that shut down airport, possibly Russian sabotage. What's your response to that? Will the U.S. have a material
Well,
response to that?
I have no response until I find out exactly what happened. I know about it, but they don't know what happened. But we're going to find out very soon.
Sir.
Would you back up NATO allies? You said that you thought that they should shoot down the Russian aircraft. Would you back them up? Would the United States help them out in some way?
Depends on the circumstance, but, you know, we're very strong toward NATO.
We have another English idiom here. Gotta hand it to them. Gotta hand it to them. Sometimes, as you probably know, English speakers speak very quickly. Gotta hand it to them. What does it mean? Well, it means to give someone credit or praise. And in the picture, you can see some very tired firefighters. You gotta hand it to the firefighters for working all night to put out the fire. Next, we have distinguished. Distinguished, that means respected and important. She gave a speech to a room full of distinguished leaders. There were a lot of distinguished leaders at the UN today. The president said he was briefed on those drones that flew over Copenhagen or something like that. We're still not exactly sure what happened there, but briefed means given short, important information. We know presidents are busy. They don't have a lot of time to get all of the information, but if you're briefed, you get the most important information in a short period of time. The president was briefed about the Russian jets. Yeah, and the craziest thing he said in that question and answer session was, yeah, NATO should shoot down the Russian jets if they go into their airspace. And I think he said the US will back up NATO if they shoot down those Russian jets. It's another English phrasal verb, and it means to help or support someone. The US promised to back up NATO allies. Allies is just another way to say friends. Circumstances. Circumstances. That means the situation or condition, usually like surrounding the situation. Take a look at this mom. She's got quite a few kids going crazy around her. It's difficult to study English under these circumstances.
NATO stepped up. You know, when they went from 2% to 5%, that was great unity. Trillions of dollars is being pumped in, and they're paying us for the weapons that we send. But that was a big day. That nobody thought a thing like that could happen. You had countries that weren't paying 2%, and now they're all paying 5%. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of weapons they're buying, and they're buying them from us. They're buying them from the U.S. You know, in the old days, Biden gave them everything, gave them $350 billion worth of money and weapons. That's a lot of money and a lot of weapons, and we got really not much for it. We gave the money to Ukraine to fight, and they've proven they're very brave. I mean, look, they're fighting, and this is a war going on 3.5 years, and people thought it would be over quickly because Russia's a big military power, and Ukraine, I tell you, they are good fighters. Got to hand it to them. They have a lot of courage, a lot of guts. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Another English phrasal verb here, stepped up. It means to take more responsibility or do more. NATO has stepped up its defense spending. And that ties into the next thing we're going to talk about. During President Trump's first term, he told NATO countries, hey, you need to spend more on defense. I guess they were spending about 2% of their GDP. GDP means all of the money a country has each year. And I guess he wanted them to spend 5%. Maybe some countries were spending 5%, but not enough. So during the question and answer session, he says he thinks it's good that all NATO countries are now spending 5% of their GDP on defense. Let's get the official definition. The part of a country's economy spent on defense. GDP, I think it stands for gross domestic product. That's not exactly important what the acronym stands for. Just know it's like all of the country's money. Trump wants NATO countries to raise spending from 2% to 5% of GDP. And I think they have done that already. Another English phrasal verb. We have a lot of English phrasal verbs in this lesson pumped in. It means to add or give a lot of money or resources. Countries have pumped in billions to strengthen their militaries. The old days, Trump said, or sometimes you might hear the good old days. That means a time in the past. How about this sentence? I'm not sure if this is true or not, but we have a picture and it definitely looks like the old days. And here's a sentence. It seems like life was better in the old days. I don't know. I think life is pretty good. At least here in the United States, we have AI. We have a lot of medicines we didn't have in the old days that saves lives. Of course, this depends on where you live. Sadly, I think if you live in Ukraine, you probably do think the old days were better. They got guts. They got guts. I think President Trump said this about the Ukrainian people. It means they are brave. He said the leaders had the guts to stand up to Russia. And if you take a look at that picture, this little boy looks brave. It looks like he has the guts to jump off that high diving board. Congratulations. You made it to the end of another very difficult English lesson. If you're looking for more English, right down there is an English lesson I did about President Xi of China speaking with President Trump on the phone. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.